Ayanda, it is such a pleasure to be in conversation with you. I think for me, it's the pleasure of knowing you as a friend. It's the pleasure of having watched you on your entrepreneurial journey as the founder and managing director of Liyema HR Consulting. It's watching you, really put so much intention behind networking with other entrepreneurs, enabling other entrepreneurs, and actually finding your purpose as you go about building your journey as an entrepreneur. And so, the purpose of today's conversation, of course, is to talk about purpose and how it relates to people. I think when we start thinking about building our businesses as entrepreneurs, we focus so much on the product, the service, we focus so much on brand. Then, of course, you come in contact with the Branson Centre and we're saying purpose, purpose, purpose. And yet, there's this other piece, which is people. And so, I'd love to have this conversation about that. But before we get into that, can you perhaps share with us a little bit about your journey and how it relates to this understanding of people as an area of impact in business?
First of all, thank you, Nas, for those kind words and for the invite to come and speak to you today. It's such an honor, friend. I remember us being at Gibbs together in 2013, and you're shouting at me and forcing me to get out of my house to go do that presentation so I can graduate from the program. And I think through the journey of entrepreneurship, I've learned that tenacity is everything. And it's very difficult to be tenacious in achieving your goal as an entrepreneur if you are not living your purpose. That being said, if an organization has a clear purpose and the leader of that organization is aware of what that clear purpose is for that organization, the people within the organization would also be as clear in terms of the organization's purpose and the leader's purpose.
So what is Ayanda's purpose?
So my purpose excites me. It excites me because I wake up every morning and I live it and I breathe it and it drives me. It's about empowerment, empowering my community. It's about uplifting my community. It's about enlightenment, education more than anything else. And that's what I've learned in the past year that has been following me, educating my community, educating the women in business that I'm so passionate in getting involved in. And that is my purpose.
And what is the purpose of your one business, Liyema HR?
The purpose of Liyema HR is very aligned to my purpose. It's about finding people jobs and creating employment. And in creating employment, by default, you're empowering the community, empowering people. It's about educating the community. And we have boot camps on weekends where we bring in the youth so that they know how to put together their CVs or how to conduct themselves in interviews. And I think because my passion is education and enlightenment and empowerment, so from my path, it then became Liyema's purpose.
And what I really am enjoying around that is you actually have started making the distinction between the purpose of Liyema HR and the product or the service that you provide. So can you tell us a little bit more about the services that you provide in your business? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's important for our listeners to understand that purpose and product or service are actually separate. So purpose is your why, and of course your product or your service is your what.
Your what. Okay, so when I established the company in 2011, I thought the service would be recruitment. Recruitment, it's staffing, just finding people jobs, placing them at clients. And somehow we had this amazing client who then said, no, you can do more. You can provide more services to us. And one of the services we then included into the organization was payroll outsourcing. From payroll outsourcing, we then moved to mobility. And we do this globally, all over the world, with some of the biggest multinationals in consulting, management consulting, and also in the engineering sector. And in doing so, I realized that if we do not show up in the world with our purpose at the forefront of what we do, doesn't matter what services we deliver, it does not make an impact. It doesn't make the impact that we need to make in the world. And that is what combining our purpose and our services has helped
Absolutely.
in growing Liyema Consulting.
I really love what you're describing in terms of, for me, it's starting to paint this really beautiful picture around the connection between purpose, products and services, and profitability, because in one very casual moment, you kind of mentioned that your business is basically a decade old.
Yes.
And congratulations.
Happy anniversary to us.
Happy anniversary. What is the 10th anniversary in a relationship? I hope somebody will tell us this from the audience.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, you again casually mentioned this idea that your business is servicing clients all over the world. That for me speaks to profitability.
Yeah.
And so there is this idea that purpose leads to profit, right? And so what is then the role of people in a business to then enable your purpose, which will then lead to profitability in your business?
As you were asking me this question, as we were talking, I realized I forgot to mention that the reason why Liyema Consulting is so successful is purely because of its people. Liyema staff members and employees have made Liyema what it is today. Their commitment back to tenacity, back to the passion or the excitement about learning. We forever evolving as an organization and innovating. And just in the past year, during lockdown, when there was no business in the recruitment division, what we did is that we didn't sit and cry. We got on a Zoom call, which we are so over Zoom.
We're done with Zoom.
We're done with Zoom. We sat on a Zoom call and we were just looking into technologies that we could introduce into the organization. Just innovative ways to service our clients. We started reaching out to our clients and just finding out from them, how are they coping? Are they okay? How can we help them cope through that whole lockdown? And I think Liyema team, for me, the Liyema team is the secret to Liyema's success.
Absolutely. So people are this key ingredient to a business.
Yeah.
But then what you're saying as well is the people in your business have an understanding of your purpose and the business's purpose.
Exactly.
So how would you advise an entrepreneur who is starting to find people and bring them into their business? How would you advise them to get to a point of articulating their purpose to their people and embedding purpose in their people?
Firstly, they need to be very clear of what their purpose is. And a lot of the times, our purpose is driven by our values. So if you are saying you are practicing integrity in your organization, you have to live it. If you are saying that your culture is all about learning, you have to live it. You can't just tell your employees what your culture is or what your values are. It has to be embedded within your organization. You have to be living it and breathing it. And by the time you're hiring people, they will know whether they're not aligned with this company's vision, values, or purpose or not. So then they easily filter out, and they don't even. A lot of the times, I've had people where they say that are saying, "No, sorry, we will decline this job," because at interview stage, by the time we are looking for employees within Liyema Consulting or people to come be employed at Liyema, we're very clear as to this is what Liyema stands for.
And I think for me, what is then sparks my curiosity is then that speaks to then having some form of people strategy, though. It's not reliant on people just self-selecting out of or into Liyema. There's still some sort of strategy that exists within your business. And so what would you say when you summarize how to even develop a people strategy in a business, particularly in a business that's purpose-led?
Ooh, that's a very difficult question to answer because I outsource everything.
Right.
I outsource people who are going to help me put my strategy together. I can articulate what I want or what I need the business to look like,
Yeah.
and someone else puts it together for me.
Right.
Because as an entrepreneur, you wear so many hats, and some of those hats you don't have to wear. It is difficult to be a finance and a leader within the organization, and a manager and a strategy consultant, and. So in putting together strategy, my advice to a lot of people is be clear on what your goals are, be very clear on how you're going to reach them, be clear on who's going to help you reach those goals and the steps you need to take, and get someone, if you can't put it together for yourself, get someone else to help you. We need help. We can't do it alone. And a lot of the times entrepreneurs think they can do it alone.
Absolutely.
And you're asking for the burnout.
And I think, so, I mean, to add to that is even outsourcing is part of a people strategy.
True.
It's finding people who will then enable your business in alignment to your purpose. So whether or not those people are full-time in your business, or they're contractors, or they're freelancing, they're still part of your business, and therefore they form part of your people strategy. And so it's for me, it also then brings in this conversation around, and I think perhaps let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
It's deliberate, for example, from the Branson Centre's point of view, that we don't necessarily talk about HR, humans as resources, but rather we talk about people, because it's about seeing the people in your business as enablers as opposed to a resource or employees, where it feels a little bit transactional. So that purpose alignment starts talking about people being people. And so I love this idea that you're bringing in, that people can also exist outside of your business and still enable it.
Yes, that's correct. That's so true. And I love, and you've told me before about the culture at the Branson Centre, and I've actually walked away with some of the gems and I've implemented in my company. We have what you call dark hour. During dark hour, we are not allowed to call each other for a good 2 hours within a day. You're not calling your colleagues. They're just having quiet time.
Yes.
And they can do whatever they want to do within those 2 hours, midday. And the learnings that we get from each other is companies that have, or organizations that have similar cultures or similar ways of thinking, of being, like leading with heart. And I'd like to believe that I lead with heart when it comes to Liyema Consulting. And that's the only way I know how to lead, is with heart. And that is why my people are appreciated by Liyema Consulting organization and by me. So in leading with heart, what happens is that then we get the rewards that come with it. Can you talk about the rewards that come with leading with heart?
I mean, so I think, and you're trying to scam me because you're my friend.
I know.
You're trying to get me to be in this podcast. Meanwhile, I'm asking you. So I'm going to take this back. I'm going to take my power back, which is, you mentioning something interesting here, which is rewards. And so part of a people strategy would include rewards, awards, incentives, forms of recognition. And so I'd be curious to find out, first of all, what types of these things have you seen out there, and what have you found works in growing Liyema as well?
So we talk about tangible rewards, awards, incentives, and you talk about the intangibles. So I'll start with the tangibles. What we perceived as valuable, tangible rewards, incentives, and awards a year ago is different from what it is today, especially with people working remotely. And it was quite a difficult one to wrap my head around at Liyema Consulting when lockdown happened, and I realized that a bonus for someone really doesn't matter, but making sure that they have their cat having access to the vet on a voucher for their cat to go to the vet is more valuable than a huge bonus. It's those small things. So these are the tangible.
You see them now.
You see them
what's
now.
important
You see
in
what's
that
important
person.
to that person. And I think we spoke to each other more during lockdown than we've ever done when we were in the office. Because when we were in the office, it was hectic and we were moving around and no one had time for each other. But now we consciously had to listen to each other. So when it comes to rewards and incentives, that I learned in the past year that we have to listen to our people. What we think is valuable or exciting rewards, it's not necessarily it. They will tell us what is great rewards or not.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to the intangibles, on the other hand, I'll give you an example of an employee I had about 7 years ago, 2013. And this lady came in as a graduate, straight out of university, came in, I trained her to be a recruiter. Fast forward 3 years later, we moved her. She was bored. She was so smart that the organization was not growing fast enough for her. And I understood that we were actually not aligned with how fast she needs to reach her goals and her purpose. And we placed her at a management consulting house as our contractor. And from then on, she thrived. She went from management consulting house to one of the 4 Big Fours. And from one of the Big Fours, she moved to one of the top global tech companies, right? As head of talent acquisition for Africa. And throughout all these positions that she took in her journey, we would be her suppliers.
Absolutely.
We became partners. And because I let her go, which was very difficult. It was so difficult. It was heartbreaking because she was one of the best performers. She was my rock star. So when she left, I realized that she needed to realize or fulfill her passion or her dreams or her goals. And I had to be selfless. So for me, that was my rewards towards her, for her. That reward that we gave her has now come back and is benefiting Liyema Consulting, the business.
Absolutely.
And that's how we grew, and that's how we've been growing.
And for me, it's a lot of people will think that these are sort of anomalies of stories that you're sharing. Oh, that was once off. She's so lucky. It's because this and this and this is happening in her business. But actually, time and time again, we see that purpose-led businesses that then are able to enable their people, sometimes to a point of selflessly so, they will benefit and it will be profitable. It's just, there's no other two ways around this. And so I'm really, really grateful that you've shared this story, because somebody else could think it's a bit of a unicorn story. Meanwhile, it's a real thing. And so as we wrap up, because obviously we could talk a lot more and about so many other things, including you trying to scam me by asking me questions. Audience, pick that up. I'm going to ask you a few quick fire questions and then we shall wrap up.
Okay.
So, a business that cares about people is a business that
thrives.
Including your people in your purpose means that
we grow.
A business without people is a business that is
failing.
Thank you so much for these very fun answers, because they're super obvious and yet they're still surprising. And so thank you for being a delightful surprise, Ayanda.
Thank you so much for having me, Nwabs.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.